Godzilla is now in New York City.
Monster 01 and 02, commence the attack.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Stomp This Way.
Howdy, howdy.
We're continuing on our train of going towards the end of the Godzilla franchise.
Almost there. We're putting on the brakes.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Actually, I was kind of interested to go back and review these last two films. I've only seen this film, but prior to this viewing, I'd only seen this film and the last one once. So this is only the second time I'll be watching both of them. So I'm glad. I'm excited about the opportunity to go back and kind of do a recheck on my thoughts to see if my thoughts are still the same on both of the films. But the one we're talking about today is Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle. That's the official English title. According to Toho Kingdom, the Japanese title literally translated says Godzilla City Mobilized for the Decisive Battle. Although it had also been translated as Godzilla Battle Mobile Breeding City, which we won't even tackle that, or as Godzilla the City Mechanized for the Final Battle. So, okay. Yeah. And the international title is Godzilla 2 City on the Edge of Battle. So
I had to get the 2 in there.
Got to get the 2. Make sure everyone knows it's a sequel. But some really quick making of trivia. It is the second film in the animated trilogy, obviously. The poster prominently featured Mechagodzilla, although he is barely featured in the film.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of fans were upset because Mechagodzilla was a heavy part of their marketing campaign for this, what little marketing campaign there was. And so a lot of fans, and they even released a toy of like the Mechagodzilla, like in, his Mechagodzilla form. But so a lot of fans were expecting, there to be Mechagodzilla, but like Dylan said, we'll talk about it. And the film, according to a tweet sent out by one of the directors, was completed less than 3 weeks before its theatrical release in Japan. So talk about meeting your deadline right up to the end, baby. But some box office results. This had a limited theatrical run in Japan, just like its predecessor, which began on May 18th of 2018. Sold 73,000 tickets. Grossed around 100 million yen, or roughly translated to US dollars, $876,000. Worst theatrical performance by a Godzilla film. A reminder, it was a limited theatrical run. Released worldwide on Netflix on July 18th of 2018, which is when I watched it.
A little over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm old. Okay. But anyway, we're going to listen to the trailer. And then we'll come back and we'll dive right in.
After we read off the cast and crew and plot summary.
Yeah. So we'll see you in a bit.
破壊の王に地球を奪われ2万年後の地球で奪還戦を仕掛けた人類。しかし希望は一瞬にして灰に帰した。俺は貴様を敗北の記憶に閉ざされた時、人類はその末裔と巡り合う。
渡りガラスは死の翼か。
俺たちはゴジラを倒すためにやってきたんだ。
中央委員会は太陽系を離れるつもりだ。
ハル、勝てるぞ。ナノメタル。
自律思考金属体。確かメカゴジラの材料だったはず。
これほどの進化とは。生きているんだよ。我々のメカゴジラがとんでもないことが起ころうとしてる。
ナノメタルを信用していいんだろうか。これは人類の手に地球を取り戻す最後のチャンスなんだ。
人の人たるがゆえの敗北を今こそ覆す時だ。
まるで怪獣と同質のものになろうとしているか。この星にまた新たなゴジラを生み出すつもりなのか。
勝利するなら覚悟しろ。ゴジラを超えたその果てに至ると。俺は
私たちはみんな希望をもらったんです。
この宇宙にはより絶対的な破壊の力が潜んでいる。
All right, we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
Yeah.
In the saddle again.
No.
This film was directed by Kobun Shizuno and Hiroyuki Shizita, just like the last film. Written by Jin Urobuchi, just like the last film. Music by Takayuki Hattori, just like the last film. And starring, mostly from the last film. And again, since we watched the English dub, I did the Japanese and English voice actors. Haruo is voiced by Mamoru Miyano or Chris Niyosi. Medphys is voiced by Takahiro Sakurai or Lucien Dodge. Martin is voiced by Tomokazu Sugita or Edward Bosco. Mulu is voiced by Junichi Suwabe or Jameson Price. Railu is voiced by Kenta Miyake or Rich Brown. Yuko is voiced by Kana Hanazawa or Christina V.
I like that name. Kana Harazawa.
Adam is voiced by Yuki Kaji or Robbie Damon. Umberto is voiced by Kinyu Horiyuchi or Keith Silverstein. Heilu is voiced by Kazuya Nakai or Doug Stone. Endorfe is voiced by Kazuhiro Yamaji or Joe Ochman. And the two newcomers are, is it Maina, I think, voiced by Reina Ueda and Kendall Gimby, or Miyana, voiced by Ari Ozawa or Rachel Hager. Those are the quote-unquote Mothra twins in the film.
Sure.
We'll talk about that. What is a very condensed plot?
Very condensed. After the attack from Godzilla Earth, Haruo awakes in a strange dwelling under the care of a strange native girl. After reuniting with the other survivors, they discover that the young girl and her twin sister belong to a race called the Hotua, who worship a deity they refer to as the Egg.
What could that be?
The Egg. Additionally, the Hotua show the survivors Mechagodzilla City, a city composed of the nanotechnology left over from the remains of the Mechagodzilla robot built by the Bilasoluto. Haruo and the Bilasoluto hatch a plan to lure Godzilla to the city and kill him, but the Bilasoluto's plan turns out to be more sinister than they seem on the surface. The Bilasoluto plan on merging with Mechagodzilla permanently, becoming one with the nanometal. But the humans and the Bilasoluto put aside their differences as Godzilla descends upon the city. At first, the plan works and Godzilla is trapped, but when the harpoon gun doesn't work, the Bilasoluto decide to force the humans to merge with the nanometal. Haruo is unaffected, but Yuko is covered by the metal, and in an attempt to save her, Haruo destroys Mechagodzilla City's control hub. Godzilla is unleashed from his prison and proceeds to destroy the city. Haruo mourns over the body of Yuko as credits roll. In a post-credit scene, it is revealed that the name of the monster that destroyed the X of Home was none other than Ghidorah.
Ooh, set up for the conclusion. All right, well, that is the plot, sort of.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. If only the movie was that simple. Did you know that you were going to get probably the most original take, most unique take on the Mothra twins walking into this movie?
No.
It's unique.
It's something.
It is something. They never refer to Mothra by name, but
she's the Egg.
The Egg. They say they have something about how their deity was killed by Godzilla, and all it left behind was the Egg. And the egg. They constantly say the egg. But you know, this movie, it starts out. We pick right up where the last movie left off. He wakes up in this strange house with this strange girl, and she runs off.
Why is she strange?
Well, because she's got weird body paint or something.
Sure.
Turns out later in the movie they're part insect, because I guess they evolved from Mothra. They evolved from Godzilla, or from humans merged with Mothra DNA or something.
You sure?
Yeah, sure. Because everything else on this planet turns out evolved to be subservient to Godzilla.
Sure.
or something.
Or something. We're going to do that a lot again for this episode.
Yeah.
Or something.
There is a lot of dialogue about a lot of scientific mumbo jumbo.
None of it makes any sense. I'm pretty sure the writers of this movie had no idea what they were writing. They were just like...
We got to fill the runtime,
They were like-
boys.
Science words.
It's like some of
things.
the Star Trek episodes, those Star Trek episodes you watch where they just are spouting a bunch of absolute nonsense.
And you're like,
Yes.
Sure.
Wow.
it's very evident the way that these lines are being delivered by these voice actors.
Yeah.
They have no idea what
They
they're
just
talking
have a
about.
piece of paper in
They're
front
like-
of them. They're like,
yeah.
yeah.
And you're like, uh-huh.
Sure. But no, so we get into it, and there's a lot of survivors. I mean, there's quite a few survivors.
More survivors than you would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they get captured by these Hatuo people, and Med Fees is there also, and I don't know, some things happen, and
This movie has nothing virtually happen for the first hour.
we get to what I think is the most incredible part of this movie is Mechagodzilla City.
Guys, okay. There's this thing called nanometal, alright? Are you listening?
Yeah, yeah.
There's nanometal, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. It comes from Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
And over 20,000 years, he has turned himself into a city.
Into a city.
Yeah.
It reminds me, there was a transformer that turned into a city, a defense city or something. What was its name? I forgot. But it kind of reminds me of that concept.
Well, in like the not Bumblebee, but the last, Michael Bay Transformers movie, the last night, that they're trying to say that Earth is what was it, Galvatron?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah. And then it kind of combined, there's this Michael Crichton book, and I'm totally blanking on its name, but it was about, they made these nanobots that learned how to self-replicate, and like they could mimic humans, and
things.
it's sci-fi. It's like basic sci-fi 101, but
Yeah.
you're gonna go with it, I guess. And yeah,
Mechagodzilla has turned himself into a city.
and he's sentient.
Yeah.
But the Bill of Saludo, because we knew from the first film that the Bill of Saludo had built Mechagodzilla, and it was destroyed before it could even be activated. So they're just kind of building off that subplot.
Mechagodzilla is basically non-existent in this movie. If you want to call Mechagodzilla being in this movie, I don't know how you could.
There's one scene where you see like his disembodied head, and they like power it up or whatever.
That's like the closest you get to seeing Godzilla in like an actual, like Mechagodzilla in an actual, what would resemble Godzilla form.
Yeah, he's not really in this movie.
He's not really in this movie.
And then what makes mad? I mean, there's some action in this first hour. Like
the first hour, there's like
they have a couple of encounters with those. Like they have that.
Well, it all happens in like the same time span. Honestly, like they have an encounter. So like after he wakes up and he runs after one of these Mothra twins, unofficial, we're gonna quote unquote Mothra twins.
Yeah.
He chases after, and one of the other ones is attacking the other survivors, and then. After they all show up, the flying Godzilla.
Well, Yuko goes down into that marsh pit, and she gets attacked by these giant snake worm things.
Yeah.
And then they shoot at those, and then the
It's
dragons
all essentially
show
the
up.
same sequence, though. It happens within like 10 minutes of each other, and that's like pretty much all the action for the first hour.
And Godzilla, like, you see some like flashes of him and stuff, but he doesn't actually wake up until an hour and 2 minutes into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't count the credits there's 6 minutes left when the credits start rolling. There's an hour,
Which like 2 or 3
long
minutes
movie.
of that is the post credit scene, but
So, really, this movie is an hour 34.
hour 35.
Hour
or so.
35. Let's say 95 minutes long, and he doesn't show up, but for 30 minutes.
Yeah, but the last 30 minutes, what'd you think of that?
It has action.
Yeah.
It does, but even the dramatic scenes and the actiony scenes just are
I think
so
it's all ruined
slow to develop.
It's ruined by a lot of the animation too, and the performances given by these
Yeah.
voice actors. I don't know if maybe the Japanese version is better. Possibly, it's not. Okay.
Yeah, no.
But like the performances these voice actors are giving, and just like these facial expressions on these animated characters are all just so ridiculous that you're like, what is going on? Like constantly, everybody that's in one of these. Oh, they're also vulture suits now. We have vulture suits, by the way.
No Michael Keaton.
No Michael Keaton, unfortunately.
But
But they're giant mech suits that fly.
Yeah. At least it's kind of anime-ish.
Yeah, this is probably the most anime thing in this entire trilogy.
Well,
I haven't got to the next movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna mention. Well, I'll talk about it in a little bit. But there's another anime trope in here that's pretty evident. But anyway.
Oh boy. But anyways, we have giant flying mech suits, and what was my train of thought? I'm totally blanking.
Sorry. We were talking about the action. And
anyway, so they're all we have 3 people flying these things during this the last 20 minutes of the film, and they're all just like the whole time, and you're like, okay.
Well, all his action is like so.
Godzilla moves so slow too.
Yeah, it's the same as last, but it's so bogged down in dialogue too. Like they literally pause the action every 2 minutes.
So you can get it a
Haruo and these Bill Saludo to have these long drawn out arguments over
being humanity,
because
saving humanity.
The value of humanity versus merging with the nanobots and becoming a monster yourself. But the Bill Saludo, their big plan is that they're going to merge with Mechagodzilla because that the ultimate honor is become part of these nanotechnology and become I don't really know, but anyway, but at the end when their plan starts to fall apart, they decide they're going to make the humans merge with it too, and Haruo gets all pissy and screamy about it, and his girlfriend starts to get covered in the mail, but he doesn't. His cousin, lover cousin, he doesn't. Which they don't really go into. They hint at it in this movie, but the reason is because whatever the Hatuo smeared on them to
treat their wounds,
treat their wounds also repels the nanometal, but whatever. Anyway, so he goes to save her, and in order to save her, he also blows up their little control hub. Which Godzilla, they would, I guess, potentially have defeated Godzilla if he would have gone along with their plan, but Godzilla ends up breaking free and destroying the city and
happens.
I don't know, happens
and things and something.
And he's screaming over, is she dead? Is she not? You'll find out in the next movie.
Things, something.
At least temporarily incapacitated girlfriend, but
Cousin there.
But the big setup for the final.
Yeah.
Earlier in the film, before we have this whole battle sequence up, lots of dialogue happening. Mm-hmm. Metphys goes up to Haruo and explains to him, they're having this whole conversation, Haruo's like, was your planet destroyed by monsters, blah, 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 blah. He tells him about how, yes, our planet was destroyed by a monster that, would make you not fear Godzilla anymore. And he leans in to whisper it. Obviously, we don't hear it. Well, in this post-credit scene, it shows back up. We live through this again. Yeah. And we get closer so we can hear him this time. And he whispers, Ghidorah.
But this movie is just it is so slow. It's 100 minutes. It's the longest one.
It didn't need to be 100 minutes.
It does not. It just takes so long for everything to develop. And even when it's having action, they just bog it down in so much dialogue.
And then all the dialogue is just so random.
It's so much of it is nonsensical.
It's just a bunch of scientific mumbo jumbo they just came up with on the spot. Yeah. They're like, all right, just throw it in there. We got to get this thing to at least 90 minutes. Push it to an hour 40 if you can, and we'll call it a day. And it's all just so slow and boring.
Yeah, and it
then you have to, and then when it gets to a point where it can be entertaining in this last 30 or so minutes. When you're randomly having these non sequiturs of people talking about nonsense.
Yeah.
We have to save humanity.
Yeah. I get it, the theme they're trying to get at in this movie. I think they do a much better job. I say much better. They do a better job of getting to it, I think, in the final film.
You're trying to say they're tree huggers?
This film, the theme of the first movie was, kind of like a tree hugger vibe. This film, I guess the theme is kind of, I don't know, I guess it's kind of over dependence on technology could be a theme, or how far is too far when trying to defeat your enemy, or overcome whatever you hate. The next film definitely has a very strong I don't want to say anti-religion, anti-religious extremism message. which I think is kind of in this one too. And you can see them building up to this one with some of these Metphys as like he's kind of gathering a cult around him and everything. But
he's a little sketchy.
He's a little sketchy. Yeah. I still like Metphys though. He's still my favorite character because he's the only one that has any air of mystery about him, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. And then the other anime trope I was going to talk about. So there's really, there's like 3 big anime tropes. So they finally get to like the mech suit trope in this and everything. They have the of course, like the synth rock score. That's kind of an anime trope.
A couple times, yeah.
And even though like most of the time we talk about this animation's kind of poor, they make sure that Yuko has very pronounced breasts, and when she walks, them bad boys bounce.
Yeah. They had to put it in there.
Like everything else in this movie is so static, but her breasts, they bounce when she walks by. God.
Then it's like that's important.
That's important.
I
mean, this movie is not near as bad as most anime about objectifying women, but it's there.
It's there.
Also, some incest and anime trope, I guess. But
is that a trope?
I've seen a lot of, like what was the anime we were watching the other day? Sword Art Online gets kind of incesty.
It gets a little iffy there.
It's a little sketchy there, but anyway.
You ready to move on to some creature design?
So creature design.
Talk about Godzilla.
Yeah.
Start with Godzilla, same as he was at the end of the last movie, Godzilla Earth.
He's extremely large, extremely earthy looking.
Yeah. I like some of the things they do with his eyes, like his pupils dilate. And
a couple times when he wakes up, his pupils dilate.
I think his eyes change color too, depending on the scene. Sometimes they're like piercing blue, sometimes they're like glowing yellow. I like how they kind of do, like when he like superheats, kind of turns into a kind of a version of Burning Godzilla.
Burning Godzilla, kind of.
And I don't know. I mean, he looks fine. I mean, something to really write home about.
He's alright. He's pretty cool, I guess. I mean, he's very large.
Very large. Very menacing, I guess. But
we'll talk about these vulture suits next, I guess.
We'll talk about, what about Mechagodzilla? He's nano, man. He just takes whatever form the plot needs him to.
What Mechagodzilla?
The head, I think the head that they show, it's like a cool concept. It's a little bit original. Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know, like Insectoid maybe, but yeah.
The city.
But the vultures.
Like a giant.
An offspring of him, the vultures. Yeah. They're very mech suit anime-ish. They have these vulture wings. I mean, they were kind of in the last movie, but they're kind of upgraded. They got these arm cannon things, and
they're very much similar. The wings are highly similar to the vulture wings from Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah,
but ultimately they're very Gundam-like.
Yes. Which we got some Gundam news to talk about at the end of this. Cool. But, yes. Yeah, I can see that, definitely. But, they're fine, I guess.
Tight.
I mean, anything else new? The dragons are in this movie, but they're the same as they were. There's
same.
got those, those slug things that are down in the marsh pit.
Sure.
They're kind of like mechanized versions of, slugs, I guess.
Slugs? I don't know.
Snakes.
Or something.
I made the comment, they kind of look like, I think it's Jason Goes to Hell, where he turns into this snake creature that infects people's bodies. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah,
I think that's about it.
Effects, I guess, or animation.
Yeah. Again, same as last time. I find the animation very static. It's very slow moving. Everything's
very slow, especially Godzilla.
Yeah,
they're and with about 25 minutes left in the movie, they're like, Godzilla will be in the city in 20 minutes. It literally
is it 20 minutes of the screen time? Yeah,
actual 20 minutes of runtime. It takes him to get there. I really, really feel with you, like you said in the last one, that it really feels like they had for the humans, quote unquote humans, it really does feel like they probably only had about 3 or 4 CGI models, and they would change either their skin tone or their hair color.
Yeah.
And almost all of them look exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's one point where this very, very whiny character is talking, and literally the person standing right behind him looks identical.
Yeah.
You're like,
I think a slightly different shade of hair color. But yeah, there's quite a bit of that. I mean, the 2 prominent Bill Saludo characters, they're very similar. I think one has a slightly grayer hair.
He looks slightly older.
Looks slightly older. I mean, so yeah, I still got that problem.
The Mothra people.
Yeah, the Hatua or whatever.
The Hatua.
I mean, it's an interesting design.
They look like just very tan individuals.
They got body paint and stuff.
Yeah.
I do think some of the animation is kind of pretty at the end when you have like the glowing red when Godzilla's heating up and all the liquid metal and stuff around him contrasted with like the darker like bluish tinted city around him and everything. I think that's some cool color palette and contrasting colors there, and I think that works kind of well. But yeah, largely I still don't like the animation in this movie, and like the way that like the background, like the CG characters, like anything that's moving, you know, is like CG, but then you like have the background like still shots, backgrounds. I don't know. It just doesn't really mesh together well all the time, but
It's a little sketch.
it is what it is. A score.
I actually think it's better than the last movie.
I think it's more consistent.
It's more
like I
consistent.
said.
It fits the tone. The different pieces of music fit the tone for the scene that they're in a lot better than the previous movie, where it just felt like random music that they just threw on over, you know, into the mix, the sound mix or whatever.
Yeah.
There's some random pieces of like rock or, you know,
Synth rock. When it gets more
rock
exciting,
or,
yeah.
you know, very synthy metal or something, or
Combined with some more like John Williams-esque scores.
Yeah.
Like I've made the comment, like the score that's playing when he's mourning over Yuko sounds a lot like some kind of sad theme, like from Revenge of the Sith or something. Yeah, but you know, it's what it is. But yeah, the score's fine. I mean,
it's a step up above the last one.
Nothing to write home really about, but it works.
Yeah.
Are y'all ready for some final thoughts?
Yeah, I guess so.
Andrew, would you like to start us out?
Well,
you know, it's a Godzilla movie.
it is that.
It is that.
Even though Godzilla's only in the last 30 minutes. But that's happened quite a few times in the franchise. Over
Generally
the
done
years.
better though.
That's true. That's very true.
Anyway.
The animation it's different.
Yes.
It's like it's a 3D. Try to make it a 3D animation. It looks a little rough sometimes.
That's accurate.
Godzilla looks cool. The score is better than the last one. I think it goes better with what's happening on screen. I think I'm gonna give this movie C plus ish.
A C plus. All right, Dylan. What do you think?
This is a movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know where to begin. This movie's slow and boring.
Yes. Very slow.
Very slow, very boring. And then when there is action, it also is not super engaging because they spend a lot of time putting these interjections of very shouted dialogue over it and through it. And it just really disrupts the flow of this final battle, and I don't know exactly why they did it. I mean, I feel like maybe we could have had this argument at a different time about humanity, but I don't write movies for a living, so I just review them.
Yeah.
Not really for a living. I don't make money doing this, but
as a hobby.
As a hobby. But I don't know. It's just so slow and so boring. It's almost more slow than the last one because the last one, you know, we get to Earth and we have a couple sprinkled in like halfway decent action scenes before this final, you know, them trying to kill this offspring of Godzilla or whatever. In this one,
it's also about 10 minutes shorter.
This one, we literally have essentially no action for the first hour or so of this movie, and it you're just like, get to the point. There's a lot of just random filled in dialogue that it feels just like runtime filler. They just put it in here, a bunch of random science mumbo jumbo that you can tell the actors are like reading it off a piece of paper straight in front of them, and they have no care in the world about what's going on. So it's just overall very, very lackluster. I don't care for the story. None of the characters are engaging. None of them have any real motive for anything. Not even our quote-unquote antagonist. I'm not even going to call Godzilla the antagonist of this movie. I'm going to call the Billa Saluda the antagonist by the end of the film. Yeah. They don't even really have a true motive, per se, other than they just want to be evolved.
They want to be one with Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, well, we get a lot of dialogue about people being evolved or devolved and this, and you're like, what?
Yeah, there's one line that makes absolutely no scientific. He says, they technically don't, he's talking about the Hatuo, and he's like, they don't meet the criteria for humanoid because they're devolved instead of evolved, and I'm like,
what?
It's not what the criteria for human, whatever.
Like, what?
What?
It's just no one has any motivations. No one has any arcs. I mean, we essentially have the characters start out in the exact same place they were at the end of the last film, and end of the exact same place that they were.
Haruo's still pissed off.
He's still pissed off. He still wants to kill Godzilla.
Medphys is still running around being sketchy.
Possibly forming a cult, conning people into summoning Ghidra.
Yeah.
And
just wait.
Oh,
I'm ready. I'm ready. Trust me. But then we get to these creatures. Godzilla looks fine. I mean, he's nothing necessarily special. He's pretty cool, I guess. Yeah. The vulture suits are very generic.
Anime stuff.
Mechagodzilla as a city is weird. It's an odd
It's original.
It is original.
Okay. And then I'm not a fan of this animation style. I mean, I've not watched a whole lot of anime, but this 3D animation style does not lend itself to this very well, I think, in my opinion. I think if you wanted to make Godzilla animated, you could have done it a better way than this 3D anime style. Heck, make it a 2D, like hand-drawn animation. That would probably look better than this.
Save you a lot of money,
you a lot of money. I think I said that in the last one, too. But
hey, but if Netflix is footing the bill,
if Netflix is like, hey, we'll give you
I'm not really sure.
$X.
I'm not really sure how much Netflix actually contributed in dollar amount, but I'm sure.
But it's very distracting to see 3D characters that almost all of them look exactly the same. 3D CGI models moving against a stagnant CGI background. Yeah, it's very off-putting. And then the score, I will say, is probably the one improvement over the last film. It's slightly better. It's very much more cohesive and fits the tone of the scenes that each piece of music is in. Even the synth rock and stuff works for these battle sequences and stuff that we have. It's kind of cool. I don't know that it's necessarily much worse per se. It's about on par with the last one. I think Aaron said I gave the last one a D+.
Yeah.
A D?
A D?
I guess.
All right.
D+, somewhere in there.
You know, make a decision.
We'll just go with D. It's slightly worse than the last one.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. This movie just, its biggest problem is that it is so slow. I think there are good ideas in here. I like concepts. Like, I like the idea of these natives that were humans that were stuck on Earth but had to evolve along with Godzilla. I like the concept of some of the themes they're getting at about, about losing your humanity trying to fight this enemy, or over reliance on technology, or some of the things that they're trying to get at, but I don't think they do it in a very interesting way, because like we talked about, Godzilla doesn't show up until over an hour into this movie, and there's very, very little action prior to that. There's a lot of setup, a lot of scientific mumbo jumbo that makes absolutely no sense, frankly, runtime padding. And because I don't care, even in those old Star Trek shows, even when they were spouting scientific nonsense, it was kind of it was in a campy enough way where you could it was kind of entertaining and you could laugh along with it. And of course, those were 30-minute.
We're gonna talk about mumbo jumbo,
45-minute episodes.
We had a however count in the last film.
Yeah,
we were gonna do that for this one. The counter that we should have had is how many times they say something about defeat Godzilla, kill Godzilla.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Lots.
Or how many times the Hatuo said the egg. The egg. Yeah, there's a lot of that. But yeah, this movie is it's really boring. I mean, and there's no scene like in the last one I talked about, how that last 5 minutes of that last movie when Godzilla Earth was rising out of the ground and just wrecked the landing crew or whatever. That went a long way and saving that movie and boosting my opinion of that movie. What little it could be boosted. There's really not a scene that good in this movie that helps boost this movie. I mean, there's parts of the last 30-minute finale that are cool visually, and Godzilla just again laying waste to everything when he finally breaks free and all that. But it's again the last 30 minutes, even when they're having their big finale blowout, it's bogged down in so much dialogue about them, becoming one with the nanotechnology versus, keeping your humanity, and then Matt Fees is off in the background, doing some religious culty stuff, and then I thought the Mothra twins, quote unquote, I thought they would play a bigger role. They should have played a bigger role in this finale. They're literally just regulated to watching from a safe distance.
being blown about a couple times.
Yeah, like, ducking down into the rocks and stuff. And I don't think we really, their names are very similar. Like, the only defining characteristic or trait that separates them is one of them is happy, or at least more well-mannered, or like not upset, and the other one is constantly upset and has a scowl on her face, which they're consistent with that. I'll give them that. But it's just none of these characters are interesting, none of them are fleshed out, and this movie is just very drab. And I'm gonna be harsh on it. I'm not gonna give it an F, because there are some things that I like about it, or at least like the idea of, and I'm gonna give it a D-. I think they really dropped the ball on this one. But if it's any consolation, if my memory serves, I do think the best, although it's a low bar to clear, I think the third one is the best one. So
we might get up to that C- range.
C- range. There you go. Andrew gave these like a C+. So yeah, so it is what it is.
Could be worse.
Could be worse. But anyway, let's briefly cover some news. First, one I didn't have written down here, but I thought might sound like Robert Pattinson trying to do a Southern accent on that Netflix movie. Black Widow has been pushed back to May 7th,
2021,
which is 2 weeks prior to the release of Godzilla vs. Kong. Do you think this makes Warner Brothers reconsider that release date, or you think it's just a crowded summer, that's the way it's going to be, and they're going to stick with it?
If I were Warner Brothers,
HBO Max.
I wouldn't go that far. I know that they're probably not going to make what they need to make to break even, no matter what, no matter when they release it.
No,
I don't think HBO Max is going to save them with that.
I don't even know if...
I know that next year is stacked, but because they have since moved Black Widow to May 7th, and therefore moved Shang-Chi out of that, or Eternals out of that February spot, and moved Eternals, I believe, till November of next year, and I think Shang-Chi has been given a new date of July of 2021. Not having that February Marvel slot, if I were Warner Brothers, I'd look at putting your movie in that mid to late February, at the latest early March. You might have a chance to maybe make your budget back.
Well, my question is...
Because the movie's completed, is it not?
I think everything but the score. I don't think the score is... I don't think the score is completed.
They need to... Whoever the score is being written
Junkie
by...
XL.
Junkie XL needs to get on it then, and he needs to write the score, and they need to release it as early as possible. Because, with nothing... Essentially, what the way the box office is looking this year, we're not going to have any probably very large releases this year. We might get Wonder Woman in December.
Dune,
maybe.
Yeah.
They still have both of those scheduled.
We still have James Bond
for now, but there's not any. I think
too.
There's not any major releases. I think, unless we get Wonder Woman, there's not a whole lot of major releases at the end of this year that are going to carry over into next year, into that February timeframe. There are some crowded things at the beginning of next year, but I honestly think that if Warner Brothers was smart and had Junkie XL finish his score, that if they moved their movie up to around where that Shang-Chi time frame was for, or Eternals or whatever for next year, that mid to late February time frame, or around that the springish time frame instead of the middle of the summer, you might have a chance of making your budget back.
My question is, how many theater chains are going to be in business by the time we decide to reopen theaters?
That's a good question.
I'm not sure if the big ones are going to survive, if I'm honest.
I guess we'll find out.
So we might be watching everything on streaming services by the time it rolls around. But moving on from that, some sad news. Yosuke Saito, who played the evil mad scientist Dr. Okubo on Space Godzilla, has passed away after battling cancer. So really sad.
Sad day.
SRS Cinema is making 200 Blu-ray and 50 VHS copies of Daisuke Sato's Howl from Beyond the Fog short film available for sale this Thursday, which will probably be the day this is published, maybe. If the Blu-ray
50 VHS copies?
They're throwing it back. If the Blu-ray copies sell out within a week, they will sell 1,000 more. I did not pre-order it. I didn't call myself into spending that money yet because I just spent money on other things. But
how much is it?
I think it's like, I don't honestly know, like $30 or something. But I watched the trailer for the thing. It looks like it might be interesting. I think it's like 35 minutes. So the short film. So Anyway, if you want it, it's there. And a life-sized replica, approximately 60 feet, of a Gundam robot was built in Japan, and they did a test run of it, and it can do basic motions such as waving its hands, walking, kneeling. They taught it to kneel.
So they built a life-size robot
Yes.
that can move.
They can move.
We're getting there, boys.
We're getting there. We're getting there. It's happening. The robot apocalypse. I can
Give us
feel
20 years, we'll be there.
it. That's kind of cool. But anyway, that's all the news I
All
have.
we need is for someone to create Skynet. No.
Yeah.
You know. Next week, I rearranged the schedule. We are going to do the newly released parody, quote unquote new, I guess it released last month, parody film Notzilla.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's going to be fantastic.
It is going to be amazing. I ordered the Blu-ray, the Blu-ray off Amazon. Yes, we're going to do it. Followed by our final Godzilla film, since we already reviewed King of the Monsters, Godzilla, Eater of Planets, or Planet Eater, or whatever the hell it's called.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that'll be it. And then we'll do Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. And we'll start Gamera.
We're getting into the Gamera franchise. I'm excited about it. This will be the first time that I've seen the Japanese version of, I think, any of these Showa era films, which means Dylan's going to have to read some subtitles. I'm sorry.
No.
He'll make it. But we're going to be watching a lot of, I think, English-speaking movies in between, so there you go.
Fair enough.
There's our compromise. But aside from that, we did finally get back to publishing videos on a video on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, we just recently published a review for Christopher Nolan's new film Tenet. If you want to check that out, our YouTube channel is DNA Film Reviews, and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, we are also DNA Film Reviews on all those. So check us out over there.
That's right. If you want to contact us concerning this podcast, we have a Gmail account. StompThisWay1954@gmail.com.
Absolutely. We're also up on the same social media platforms for this show. We are at Stomp This Way on all those. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you give us a like or a follow. Be sure to tell your friends about us.
That's right. You still did that, but okay. We also have a website. Andrew, what is that website?
Well, that website is www.stompthisway.podbean.com.
It is.
That is right. What do we have over there?
Things.
Thanks.
Yeah, over there we got our full schedule of events, subject to change as always.
Yes.
On that schedule, you can see grades for previous films.
Mm-hmm.
You can also find our backlogged episodes, as well as whatever news Aaron keeps us updated with.
That's right. I probably need to update the news section. It'll happen eventually. But anyway, I think that's all we got for you this week. Again, don't forget to join us next week for Notzilla. It's
Notzilla.
You can either rent it probably, I don't know, for like $3.99 and for like 48 hours on some streaming service, or you can buy it on Amazon. I think the Blu-ray I paid for was like $19. So watch it along with us, and we'll have a good old time. Hopefully it's kind of funny.
It's gonna be fantastic.
It's gonna be amazing. But anyway, as always, I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dylan, and we'll catch you in the next one.
青い空をまぶたに浮かべたいつの間にか鳴りやまないスコール泣き出すように地面を叩いてくもうない夢は乗せた「 近道のないきっと進んでいく小さくなる背中を見つめた私たちは